I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey. Back again. What's going on, AfterBuzzers? We are here. This is the For Life After Show, Season 1, Episode 6, Burner, and the gang is all here. How's everybody feeling?
Hey.
Okay.
What's up, guys?
Okay, so, honestly, there was a lot that happened in tonight's episode. We got to see 50 Cent. So, I know we always say there's a lot to talk about, but there's a lot to talk about. So, I'll introduce each of you guys, and you can give me like your quick thought on just the episode as a whole. So, first and foremost, I gotta go ahead and introduce Jeff Will to get that out the way. Jeff holds us down with the special segment For Life and Back. But before we even get there, what did you think of the episode as a whole?
What's up, man? Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to still be doing this after show, even during the coronavirus crap that's going on out in the world. But no, this episode was crazy. I loved it. I loved everything that 50 brought to the episode, but I also have hesitation with everything I just said. So I'm in the middle with how I feel about what's going on.
Okay.
I'll explain more. I'll explain more later about that one.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. In the meantime, though, we'll go to McDonald, who is definitely always going to keep us covered with
Live
social
tweets,
media, live
social
chat.
media.
I was thinking because I know it's a little different now since we do the show remotely. So I was like, I don't know what to call it, but she'll keep us in check with what the people are saying. Dot, what did you think about the episode?
Okay, seriously, I thought this episode was fire, from the way they introduced 50 to the fathers getting into the business. I just thought everything was getting laid out, and so I cannot wait till we dive into it.
Okay, good. Looking forward to that. I'm similar there for sure. But before I give my thoughts, let's jump to Emily May, of course, keeps us covered with the latest news and gossip. How are you feeling, and what did you think?
Oh, I'm good. I'm so happy that we get to do the after show today. I've been looking forward to it. So this episode I absolutely loved because it was laying the groundwork, all these little breadcrumbs of mystery and of kind of characters kind of swerving in actions that you think are going to happen or not going to happen. There was a lot of mystery behind it, and so I loved how they're building to something bigger, and I feel like this was the episode where they really dove into it. So I can't wait to dive deeper into all that.
Okay, perfect. I completely agree, you guys. My name is Keith Andre. Of course, I'm here to drive the boat. I thought it was a great episode. I definitely agree. I think we've spent a lot of time just talking about where we want the show to kind of go to, but this was like a visual representation of starting to see some of that action, especially with the introduction of 50 Cent.
Yeah, very true. It was an introduction for sure. They didn't even have to say anything. They just pretty much stared each other down without staring each other down on the bus. He's like, "Yep, you already know. I run this early."
The introduction was everything, with the slow walk. Then they had Pop Smoke playing, which is a well-known rapper who recently passed away, who has that really grimy thug feel to it. The introduction of 50, I think it spoke for him before he ever had to say a word. I was curious to see who he was going to be, but immediately when they started playing the music, and then 50 Cent does that smile and you see the gold in his mouth, I was like, yeah, 50 has officially entered the show.
It was very ominous, just the way they shot the bus scene, and then just like the backs of heads and just the way that it felt very small and confined, like the cinematography, and then having that reveal of the music, like you said, and then just the fact that there was like distance between them once they saw each other and looked at each other. That was so intense, and so you knew that this character was not going to be a good guy. and cause some trouble.
Oh yeah, okay. We definitely saw that from the jump. I completely agree. I think that 50, the way that they set that character up, the way that he introduced, it was good to see for the show. And I too was still thinking about kind of the power element, but I could appreciate like this show needed some of that weight, I think, and this
Mhm.
episode really executed that well. So I feel like we saw a lot with Aaron, his life, his home life outside of jail. But so we'll definitely let's just go ahead and we'll break down kind of like 50 Cent's character, what we see going on there. And then we'll make our way back to Aaron Marie, Darius, the daddy, all of that. So
So much.
uh, we
So
jumped in and
much.
we met 50 Cent, who's, well, his character's name is Cassius Dawkins. He's the prisoner that is sent over. I know you guys had mentioned, I think that you mentioned the gold teeth. I was wondering, like, can you have gold teeth in prison? Is that a
I
thing?
don't think that you can. So I think that that added to his character because he's this prisoner who can almost do what he wants to do at the previous prison, and he kind of gets to break the rules. So I think that what caught our attention immediately because it's like, oh,
Mhm.
he must be a boss or a don in any facility that he's at because you cannot have that in your mouth.
Yeah. Well, and
Right.
I love that moment with when he's about to get checked in and the warden has to confront him and kind of put her foot down and say, "Hey, this is not going to work in the same way that you were used to." And I just felt like that was a powerful moment for the warden to really step up and say, "Hey, like I'm here to like I still have humanity. I still am going to take care of people, but if you overstep a line, like I'm gonna like put my foot down." So, and then he was like kind of you can kind of see he was trying to be funny and kind of
With the flirt.
with the flirtation, yeah.
Right.
And so you
Yeah.
can kind of see he was trying to be playful and try to like, oh, I can see like test the boundaries of like how far he could go.
Yeah, I think he definitely was trying to put on some of that charm just so
Hmm.
that, he can kind of make that acquaintance. But to everybody's point, we kind of knew from the get-go what type of person like we were dealing with, just the way that they introduced him. So when it got to that meeting with the warden, I thought that that was helpful just in establishing, right, that he has some kind of street
Hmm.
cred or credibility to the way that he moves in the prison. So we saw that. What I did want to ask, because I do feel as necessary as it is for us to see him interact and to have conflict with Aaron, it was kind of immediate and it just was like kept happening. What did you guys think about his introduction to Aaron and the exchange that they had, or the exchanges that they had? Emily?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the reason why the introduction of Cassius's character was so effective was because they had conflict right away. So they had like this tension that was really like really uh apparent. And so I think that helped right away and made it very effective so that it causes a ripple effect later and then a I wouldn't say like a friendship, but at least like a understanding of like, hey,
Yeah.
if you help me, I might help you kind of thing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that right off the gate. Cassius already knew who Aaron was because here you are, Aaron is doing all this busy work inside his prison, but obviously word is getting around, not just in the
Hmm.
media, but through the prisons. And word is getting around about what Aaron does and what he stands for. And even though he's not a top notch man in the way that Cassius is, he's still someone that's very well known within the prison. So Cassius comes in right away and is trying to, in my mind, create his hurdle, create his circle, create his new territory. And automatically he wants Aaron, wants somewhat in the mix of
Hmm.
things. So I just love that automatically, no time wasted. We're hopping right in and we're figuring out what the dynamic of this relationship is going to venture out to be.
Fair enough, and welcome back, Jeff. So we were just talking about the introduction of 50 Cent as Dawkins, and we did talk a little bit just about him having like the gold teeth because I didn't know like you could just be in jail and be transferred and rock gold teeth. But then also we were starting to kind of just look at what you thought of his introduction to Aaron. For me, I felt like they were just making it so like quick and just a thing initially. I didn't know, or couldn't decide if I needed it to be like that quick or could they allow time to build. But Jeff, what did you think seeing that first interaction between Aaron and Dawkins?
Yeah, no, I loved it because I thought it went really well. Like the speed of it went really well, just because not only is he a big presence, as in 50 Cent, he's coming into a place where people already know him, but Aaron has already made a name for himself. It's not like he's just a regular inmate. He is known around the place. So it's like if two are not brooding, but like two big forces come together, there's gonna be a quick not altercation, but there's gonna be a quick something there. You gotta figure out who's leading.
Yeah,
Same
it's like
with
two
Wild
alpha.
Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like two
it's
alpha
the same.
dogs in the same room, and you're like, who's gonna?
Exactly. And like same with Wild Bill. Like you're gonna have all these different altercations coming quick. So when that happened, it made sense to me. And you just found out who was the top dog.
Absolutely. I think the Wild Bill reference is like a very good example of that and just seeing that play out. And we got to see even Dawkins, just trying to, like you said, from the jump, just show himself and let people know who he was. Now, he did ask Aaron first early on in the episode to use his burner phone and to make a phone call. Dot, you already shaking your head. Do you feel like what do you think of that? And do you feel that he should have allowed him to make the one call or should he not?
When he asked to make that call, I just was like, come on, Aaron, you are smarter than this. You know better than to allow this man to use your phone. But at the same time, I'm wondering, did Aaron think that, Dawkins had good intentions? Did he think that he was really going to call like a daughter or someone? And I just was like blown away when I heard the conversation on the phone. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Now we are in this situation. Aaron, you know better.
Well, I'm so like you're right. I'm so frustrated that Aaron let him use the phone because now, I mean, it's a burner phone, so I like just tracking that, and then what if he gets caught, and then it's gonna just go back to Aaron, and that's all I could think about was like Aaron's gonna get in trouble or like get framed or get charged for something that he didn't do, and then it's like he's back in the same circle. So I like had all these horrible like scenes happening in my head when I saw that.
Predictions.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I'm worried. Actually, I'm not worried because he gave the phone away now. So like that was probably the best move for him. The fact that he gave the phone for one phone call is a wrap. So like you kind of like dug your own hole. So now you just kind of give the phone away, and now you're kind of getting out of that trouble in a sense because if they do trace it back, it's with 50 and not with you.
No, I definitely agree there, and you're right. So by the end of the episode, he definitely gave the phone away, which I thought was the smart thing to do. I also think that Aaron was very aware and just we got to see his reaction in real time with the element of Dawkins' character. And so I feel like from his initial setup, just the way that he was introduced, he knew the chances, he knew what was going on. So by the time he did the first phone call, I felt that he already knew that he was going to end up, without the phone, just because it's still got to be like prison nature. Although he trying to was kind of coming up against it, going back and forth, I was like, oh yeah, it's a wrap on the phone. And I did want to shout out the actor. I don't know what the character's name of the guy who kind of plays Aaron's best friend. I thought he definitely shined in today's episode as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. He barely said any words and he shined. He just
did.
like, and then he got up real quick.
That's talent right there.
I feel like the dad shined in this episode as well.
Oh, he definitely did. So before we get to the dad, so just to close out our whole 50 element kind of, but Dawkins experience, because my biggest takeaway from his character was that we needed a bad guy. We needed like this type of energy that I now can associate with the show that has me like, okay, trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
Do you think, so I had a question, do you think that the reason why they introduced this type of character at this point is so that we can see the contrast of like Aaron's morals and values versus like inmates like Cassius?
Oh, that's a good question. Jefferson. Oh, well, let me go first. No. I think that yes, because before this, the only litmus test to Aaron's character is his own behavior and like other prisoners, and he's always been kind of the good guy. We've been questioning his integrity, his loyalty, all these elements. So I do think now that they've introduced this type of character that's extreme, we'll really get to see him play to his moral compass and see it for that. But Jeff, what you think?
No, I wasn't disagreeing. Well, like to an extreme. I was just like saying, I was like, we kind of got to see his integrity already. I guess I still have to wait and see how the storyline goes to see how to really affect Aaron, just because we've seen him face so many adversities so far in this episode, and like in these 5 episodes and 6 episodes. And it's like, I don't know what else I can see him get challenged with, especially inside the jail cell, to kind of do anything different than what Wild Bill has done or what O'Malley has done, or the DA has done outside the jail cell. So it's like, I don't know what 50 can add in that sense.
Okay.
I'm curious to see now, because we see that Dawkins has these outside connections, which were revealed at the end of the episode. I want to see how Aaron and Dawkins probably play off of that. If they strengthen that relationship, like, will Aaron start using, Dawkins and what he's connected to in the outside world to his advantage? Because Dawkins seems like a very dangerous man who gets what he wants. And I mean, ultimately that could work for Aaron.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And so we already talked about just the fact that by the end, Aaron does give Dawkins the phone. Correct me, or I'm wondering, was his decision to give him the phone, did that also make Dawkins Aaron's security? Because they had that scene where is that what happened, or?
I think that's what the
Okay.
assumption is, because they're like, look, you either give it to him and have him as your security or you don't. So I was like, I assume that's just like him, like, look, you win kind of deal, and not like I'm happy about it, but it's like, you win, here, have it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more trouble if he doesn't give it to him.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Dawkins also, he knew. He's like, need a burner while I'm in here. What easy way can I get one? Boom. It was effortless.
And the fact that he knew right away, he's like, oh yeah, Aaron has one.
Let me get that.
Let me get that.
Oh boy told all his business. But okay, so let's go. We'll jump into Earl, who is Marie's dad, who shows up. Emily, you were just saying how he definitely shined in the episode. We know he came along to visit. Let's talk about him visiting, I guess, Marie, Darius, Jasmine first. And then we could talk about his visit to Aaron. Emily, I know you said you thought he did an incredible job. So what's your takeaway?
So this is it's such a character that's so that comes in and out. It's a very hard character to play, because you're gonna have fans that are gonna hate you, and you're gonna have fans that are gonna like love you, because you're gonna have people in different camps. You're gonna have the Aaron camp and the Darius camp, and so I know we have a mix on the panel. And his performance tonight was so nuanced, and so you could tell the struggle of him just wanting what's best for his daughter, and knowing that she's in pain, and that she's kind of like embattled internally, that she can't make a decision for herself. And so I feel like he's just trying to do what's best for her, and his performance, I thought, was beautiful tonight.
Okay, I can understand that now. I do think that he wants what's best for her, but I think that he kind of is stepping over the line. It's not that she can't make a decision for herself. She's made a decision and he hasn't really respected it. I feel like at first I was thinking like, oh, he just wants what's best. But then we got to see, oh, he kind of has a history that he really doesn't like Aaron. So I was like, I don't know. Go ahead.
He doesn't listen to her either. You're right. He doesn't listen.
Right. Dot, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that his perspective was really needed in this show to create more of a dynamic between that contrast of her having to make that choice. Although we get that from Darius somewhat, it's a little bit jaded because he is the former best friend. So to have that outside person kind of come in and give all these points and reasoning that really do make you kind of sit back and think, is Aaron holding them back? I think that her dad has a unwavering feeling about Aaron, and that's what we needed, because Darius kind of goes back and forth, as does she. And I think that he obviously is Darius's number one fan. When he presented that ring, I just threw my hands up in the air and I'm like, wow, he didn't even give this to Aaron. Like, what is happening here? And that's when I saw like, oh, he never ever liked Aaron. So this is only adding more fuel to the fire, which we understand why he's so passionate about his daughter just moving forward with her life. And in this episode, I could see every point that he was making. And that's what kind of made my heart break a little bit, because I totally could understand him.
Yeah, it was that scene in the car was unexpected and so kind of cold and calculated on the part of the dad, and kind of underhanded towards Aaron. Even without Aaron even being in the scene, I felt like Aaron was there, and it did break my heart.
Okay. And Jeff, what did you think?
Yeah, no, you guys hit on the head with the dad was he was right in everything that he was saying, because it was coming from him. Because that's how he felt about the situation as a dad. But he was never listening. You guys said it a couple of times. He was never listening. He never listened to Aaron. He never listened to Darius. He never listened to his daughter. Everybody was telling him different things, and he's like, "No, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I want. Here's a ring. Take it. All that. Like, you should be away from him." The wife, Marie, literally said, I'm in love with him still. I'm not in love with Darius. This is what I'm doing. This is what me and my daughter's doing, and he's just not listening to it. It was too much. Like you said, he overstepped. He could say what he wants, but he overstepped his boundaries. And you just need to listen. And I can't wait till Darius uses that fake ring. And I call it fake because he didn't ask for it. And he didn't ask for it. That means you always know, if you're gonna ask for a person's hand in marriage, you ask the dad. The dad don't need to come up to you and be like, "Look, ask her to be married," or like, "Ask her to marry you." Like, no, that's weak. I don't need.
I don't know any dad that would do that. That would be like, "Here's the ring, make the move." Like, you're right. You go, if you're the gentleman, you go and ask the parent. It doesn't have to be the dad. It could be the mom too.
I think it depends, but before we go to Darius, because we're going to get there, so I'll reserve some of that. But you did bring up Marie, and I do think that it was good to finally see her come clean. We were questioning and trying to decide, does she think this? Does she feel this? And so she was able to flat out say, she's still in love. What did you guys think of that declaration?
That was such a refreshing moment, because I think since episode 1, we've been conflicted on the panel, and we've been kind of diving in and dissecting and kind of exploring different ways she could be feeling. And we finally got it, point blank, period. And we were like, yes, it's a little bit of everything that we've been saying. But I think it must have been therapeutic for her to also finally just say it and get it out, because she hasn't said it during the show at all. So I'm wondering how she's going to internalize that now that she has said it out loud, and will she share that with Darius?
Yeah, it's one of those hard things that she finally, I feel like in every scene and moment she's wanted to say it, but she didn't know how. And so now everything's out on the table. And so what is she going to do with that? I'm not sure. Is she going to ignore it? Is she going to just move on? Does she need to say that in order to get past Aaron? I don't know, but I'm conflicted as a fan when I watch what she should do.
I think this pretty much tells us what she's going to do. I think it's just going to be a slow burn. For her, she's just kind of realizing it, because she's deep down known that she loved Aaron more. She's been texting him saying, "Hey, can you talk?" All this kind of stuff. And then somewhat lying to Darius and all that. She knows, but this is the first time she's able to say it. She had to stand up for herself because her dad was coming at her. And now that she knows, it's like, okay, now what do I do with that knowledge? Since it's in the forefront, what do I do with it? And I think that's what we're going to see in the next couple episodes. She's going to have to tell Darius, look, I'm not in love with you. I'm in love with the guy behind bars, and I always will be, because he's fighting to get out, and I'm fighting to have him out. So it's just going to be interesting, but I'm loving her coming to terms with this, because she's been fighting it. We've been fighting it on the panel, but we know you've been sending texts. It's time.
Agreed. It's really nice.
She's texting a lot.
Yeah, she is.
Can you talk? I'm like, I'm in jail.
Right.
Can you talk?
Asking if you could talk.
Right. He has more free time than her. Yeah. But so I do think that, it is good to see her character be actualized and really come to terms with herself. Like you said, I think that she knew, but to hear it, it makes it real. So she does have to face that. And just kind of jumping off the pre-prediction that Jeff is throwing out about her having to tell Darius, let's talk about Darius a little bit, because hear me out. I feel that the dad coming back to town, him having that conversation, just things that Darius said as well throughout his work, show that maybe he doesn't want to get married to Marie. I think that I don't, maybe he's not in love with her. I think it showed him as like some humanity. I know it's hard for Jeff to see him as a person who makes mistakes or who like has other sides to his personality. But I think it showed, he was just saying like nobody's free from airing that. He was telling them like, oh, the divorce paper. He was giving all the excuses as to why not. So that makes me feel that, in his heart of hearts, he doesn't want it either.
Well, I felt like Darius in the scene where he said, well, he was kind of making he kind of acted somewhat like the best friend finally and said, hey, he hasn't signed the papers. Like, it's not my decision to make. And I feel like that was an important thing for him to say, because it was like he wasn't only saying it to the dad, but he was saying it to himself. Like, hey, there's 3 people in this relationship. It's not just me and Marie. Like, there's multiple people. So I think it's a more layered response than
Can I drop again?
Oh.
Hello?
No, you're still here, Jeff.
You're still there.
We hear you.
Jeff, do you want to talk about that? Oh, okay. So yeah, so I think it's a more layered response than I think than Darius like understands himself.
Okay. One thing that really made me like, I've been battling. I feel like I've battled the most with Darius. I feel like every episode.
You've been every episode. You like go back and forth,
and then I'm like yes, and then I'm like no, and then this episode I was like, oh, when Jasmine was trying to purchase things for Aaron, maybe his quarantine, and Dad was like, "Here's my card." Darius was like, "Here's my card. It doesn't matter how much. It's still my friend." And I just had this moment of, he is still kind of treating him like this is his friend, but the situation is just so complicated. So maybe in his complicated mind, he thinks that, being there for Marie and Jasmine is being a friend and making sure that they are taken care of. And I still do not agree with it, but I'm starting to understand his mindset, and it's making me mad.
I know that scene. It's like he's in the relationship for like, because he has a sense of duty to Aaron in order to make sure that his family's okay. And he might not be in love with her, but like they're together in order to heal, and they might not necessarily be a good fit for the long term.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that. I think you said it, perfectly, just kind of seeing Darius and seeing the difficulty that he has in his character as well. And then to your point too, Emily, I think that Darius is kind of experiencing it all in real time. And as a result, especially about the time we got to see the last scene where he noticed Jasmine looking out the window at the mom holding her dad, he may just come to the realization that, hey, what are we doing here? This isn't what I want. So I think it'll be nice to see those stories, unfold as well. So it was good. We keep seeing a little bit more of Darius. We still haven't seen his story, his side to it. I'm looking forward to that to come. And then, so you guys want to go ahead and we'll talk a bit about the last exchange. We'll talk about the dad coming to see Aaron, and then we can kind of fill in and see how we feel about some of the stories that are happening and still kind of going on. So I know we'll go back to Emily. I know you definitely enjoyed him, and I think he really showed some range and some good acting there at the end in the scene with Aaron. Was he wrong for going to visit him? Do you feel that he was just, or was he wrong for even coming there like that in the first place?
I'm mixed, because technically he is his father-in-law, but if we've seen from this episode, we saw that he never really liked him. He never supported him. He always thought that like he was a bad apple. He was gonna, not good for his daughter. So if you can't support your daughter and you can't support the partner that she has chosen, then you're going in with bad intentions already. And so I felt like this scene was not going to be good. No, acting wise, it was great, but I meant like the intentions behind it were going to be misleading and not true to the dad, because he just wants to like kind of put fire under Aaron to say, hey, like, you need to end this.
For sure. And that, so what did you think that he was right or was he wrong for even showing up in the first place?
I thought that he was right to go and see Aaron. I think that because he feels so strongly and passionately about it, that it's nothing but respect for him to go directly to Aaron. I was almost like, thank God he went to Aaron, because I do feel like if Maria is hesitant or has a change of mind, Aaron will be able to clearly understand where that may be coming from. He will now know that the dad may be putting something in his ear. I was shocked to find out that the dad hadn't gone to see Aaron before, so that being one of the first times, and for him to feel so strongly against him, I was definitely shocked there. But it was a conversation that needed to be had, and I hope that Aaron was able to digest it and, you know, just be able to look at the situation from everybody's perspective and kind of gauge where he really should be standing. We've seen him throughout this season be extremely selfish, and I think the dad just put it all on the table and maybe opened Aaron's eyes to a little peephole where he could see through a different way.
Yeah,
Agree.
exactly.
I think it made sense. And for me, I definitely agree. I think that he was right for going. There was nothing wrong with him going. And I was glad too that Aaron made the decision that he did. Did you guys ever think for a second, like, oh, he would be like, okay, let me sign the papers? Or were you happy with his decision to just say, if that's what you got to say, you can go?
I love that that was his decision. I love that he didn't argue with him. I love that he didn't disagree or try to change his mind. I love that he just, you know, stood his ground and allowed this man to vent, because this man is obviously dealing with things too. As the dad said, when you are locked up, it is really not just about you. Obviously, the dad is storming in here because he's affected as well. So I think that Aaron, in some sort of way, took the high road by just allowing him to vent, say his piece, and saying, all right, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's Aaron. This showed a moment of like being really steadfast in his belief and kind of his feelings for Marie, and saying, you know what, I'm good. Like, I heard you and I'm listening, but I'm the one in here having to deal with this day in and day out, and I hear you. So but I feel like in the next episode, or the episode, or maybe two episodes from now, we'll know perhaps what his decision is.
Yeah, definitely. I think that things are going to round themselves out soon. We'll get to predictions in a bit. One of the questions I am going to ask, so you guys can start thinking about it. Do you think we will see the decision in Aaron's case? Like, is he going to get out of jail at the end of the season, or is he still going to be in jail? But while we think about that, so let's look at some of the story, because we did get a lot of story development in the episode as well with the CO. So I was really happy about this scene. The last scene with the CO who gets in house and his family is tied up. I think this is the first time we've really seen kind of in real time, like some drama, some like action, some violence about to happen. So I love that. What did you guys think of kind of just seeing that different bit of story and a change of beat for the episode as well?
I thought it was right on time. What are we calling the gentleman who walked in from home?
Who?
This
Oh, the CO?
the
He's the
CEO.
correctional officer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the correctional officer, this is the first time that we're seeing the people that work within the facility. We're seeing what happens outside of their life. And for it to be like family tied up with these two gangsters, I'm like, we're going there. We're finally going there. It was really exciting. It made me it put me on the edge of my seat for the next episode. And I absolutely loved the drama that it brought.
Yeah, I mean, I loved how they ended on that beat. Where he comes home, he's like, why is it dark? And then we have that big reveal with the lights on. And it brings, because we're dealing with Aaron in prison and we see his home life. But what happens with all the other characters at home? And what are their, like, we see the warden and how she's dealing with her partner and kind of her home life. But what about the people that we see doing like the dirty work and doing the stuff, like sneaking drugs into the prison? Like, what's going to come of him, and what is his home life? It has to bleed into all areas of these characters' lives, and I'm glad that it's extending even more in this episode.
Yeah, I think it was a great element. And two, it shows just kind of more to the humanity. It because
Mhm.
to a certain extent, we feel like we have certain characters figured out. We know who they are. The CO, we know it's a bad guy, but then put against another bad guy where his family is brought into it. You get to see like where people's standpoint is. You get to see their moral compass. So it's nice to just see them more just fully developed and realized as well. And Emily, you did touch on the warden's family. I wanted to talk about her because I feel like I like the warden, but whenever she's with her family, I don't get it. Like I get it, but I don't know how much I believe in that aspect. So tell me what you think about the warden's life and her family ties.
Well, I mean, I think she has two lives. She kind of balances the scale. She is like this person of, trying to hold down the fort of justice when she's like in charge of the prison, but then at home it's a very different scenario where um she has a partner that wants her to do certain things that she's not comfortable with, or is fine unearthing things that she said. And so it gets a little tricky where like she has to sidestep and step backwards because someone told her to. So she's not in a position of power at home, it seems. She's in a position of power at home. And so it's an interesting dynamic to see. So I don't know. I like how it's complicated and I like how there's a contrast, but I don't know if it's necessarily believable that everything
Mhm.
is true and authentic at home.
And you dot?
I agree with everything that she's saying. And then also with the warden's not home often. So how can it be
Mhm.
authentic? So there's obviously a lot of things that she's missing in her child's life and her partner's life. And so she's just kind of like playing a role. So if you're saying you don't believe it, I think that that's absolutely the point of us seeing who she is at home, because she's a different person when she's in that prison.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, that's another great point. That's another great point. And
Yeah.
I think too, for me, if I were writing it, I would just at this point I would have eliminated the warden having children. I would just have it be her and her partner. I don't if they're not adding anything to make me feel incensed as her as a mother or maternal. So for me,
Mhm.
at this point, I would have just let that.
You're like me,
Like I
Liz.
keep waiting to see an affectionate moment, or for the child to bring some sort of anything, and we haven't seen that yet. Or maybe it's
Mhm.
coming. Maybe that's what they're keeping the child around for us
Um,
to see. Or maybe they're creating that sort of aspect of like the child is just there in the warden's
mhm.
life and how she's living. She doesn't have, availability to be super present. So when you're in those positions, sometimes it really is like your kid is just there.
Just
So what
there.
we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
feeling may be a sort of sense of what the writer is trying to create, where we're like, what does the daughter do? Why is the daughter
Mhm.
there?
Well,
Yeah.
also, and also, children give you a sense of like you're grounded, and you're also like have a kind of a maternal instinct, or like kind of a little bit more empathy. I
Mhm.
feel like her character could have that if we see that moment with the child.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe so.
and she's been showing more and more empathy while running the prison and kind of trying to do the investigation into who's smuggling stuff in, and so she's slowly trying to connect with people, um, but I feel like she isn't connected with her family, and so there's a distancing there that I see.
Yeah. Agreed, and we'll see what happens there. There's some shows, sometimes it happens, characters
Yeah,
disappear, they
just
don't
write
make
them
it to the
off.
next
Just
season,
write
you
them
write them off.
off.
So, we'll, we'll see what happens with the children. But before we get ready to cover, our news and gossip and our predictions, I did just want to slide in and talk a little bit more about the development and story. So we got to see Aaron gets like this huge kind of break in his case. He finds out that Angelo Torres, who's the manager of the club, is the
Mhm.
criminal or the CI, the snitch. So, what do you guys think about that? And where do you think that, like, where do we go next? Go next in his case?
I think, I'm
Documentary,
not
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I think that might be the breaking ground for his case. I know that we still have several episodes left, but I think that piece of evidence is going to be crucial in them taking him seriously, you know, reopening it and him possibly winning it. Just seeing his reaction, he's like, you know, this is someone that was on my payroll. What do you mean they were working for you? You know, he went up and testified. It just was very dirty. And me just hearing that, you know, understand, like, if you're a judge or someone, like, you can't really ignore that type of like misconduct. So I was very excited for him.
Yeah, and then the fact that the judge was on Aaron's side, that she was pushing to say, hey, like it's one thing to like kind of slack on this one type of procedure and this one type of hearing, but the fact that you like missed it on this other huge thing that's like really huge in the criminal justice system and you know the legal procedures, that's a big deal. And so finally I felt like this was a moment where Aaron had a win, an authentic win, not a win by going and forging things and doing things. Like it was something that like he, you know, they found and that the DA and everyone was trying to hide too, and the police department, they were trying to hide it. And so I think I will get into predictions, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know this,
unravel.
the more we talk about it, the more I think about predictions, but I will say, you know, to your point, we really got to see him get a win and we got to see him just be a lawyer. We didn't need any of the elements. We didn't have to think about race, relations, or that. It was based on him being a lawyer and which lawyer had the best argument. And so it was really good to see him just win in that way as well. I think, you know, I'll save it for predictions, but without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into news and gossip.
Cool.
Okay, so I've started following 50 Cent on IG. I saw he had posted that For Life is the #1 show on ABC. Did you guys see that?
No,
I didn't see that.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
Now he posted it, so I want to see like how I believe it to be true, but it's not like he retweeted. It's like he said it. So
gotta check on that.
All right, we'll investigate.
Yes, we'll definitely check that out. And then I saw the New York Times had a piece with 50 Cent and the guy who plays Aaron, Isaac Wright Jr., who the show is about. So they did like a interview there. Did you see that, Emily?
I did. Yeah, there's some really great quotes. You should check it out. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Yeah, so they interview both of them and they talk through kind of how the show is changing the network and getting people to talk about the reforms they need in the criminal justice system and kind of Isaac's journey and what it means to him to kind of be represented in this way.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely started to check it out. I'll go back and take a deep dive into it, but I really appreciate it. Just kind of, you know, a lot of times when we get to the point where things are in the media and they become polarized, they go away from maybe how they started. So it's really good to see that you have these two men who are executive producers of the show, two Black men who have had their own bouts in the criminal justice system. You know, I don't think we forget, but I think in some ways 50 Cent is so far removed from like being shot 9 times and all that. So I was just looking through the article and, you know, just hearing him tell his story in that way, it's really good to kind of see how they both could come together, whether they agree or not, to kind of tell a bigger story and unpack a bigger issue that the world has to face. So yeah, that was pretty much it, I think, for news and gossip. But I think this too is another indicator, you know, them having an interview with someone like the New York Times that, you know, that doesn't just happen. So I think we'll see, you know, a lot more press start to rev up with where we are in the season. I know we don't know exactly how many episodes. My guess is probably like 10. What do y'all think? How many episodes do you think?
I think 10. I definitely think 10.
I think it's 10, but we can look on IMDb and see.
Yeah, I'll be looking, and sometimes they only show like up to a certain point.
That's true.
But
That's true.
I think it does show like we're gonna see them kind of rev up in the media. So we'll see what else is out there for news and gossip. Now, Jeff did have some technical difficulty, which is fine. We'll have to
Yeah, it looks
save
like he's stuck off the
off the
interwebs.
grid, off the grid. He's off the grid. So next week we'll definitely start out. We'll make sure we get to cover the For Life and Back segment because that's super important. It's a way that we
Yes.
kind of stay engaged with what's going on in the world and seeing people who have interacted with the criminal justice system, but then come to find out they were innocent and get out. And so it's nice to see and to hear those stories as well. But the biggest story on my mind is you guys' predictions. So can we just go ahead and get into
Oh my
that? So you
goodness.
have to, you can give me, whatever big predictions you have, but one has to be what I asked earlier about. What did I ask earlier about the character?
Will we have a decision in Aaron's case?
Oh, right. Is he
During
gonna?
this
Yeah,
season.
before the end of the season. Yes, yes, Emily. Okay, you got it. So give us
Taking my notes. Okay, I'll go.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So I think I think the next episode and the episode after that is going to be a huge breakthrough in Aaron's case. I think we're going to see more dirty cops and dirty DA and like I think we're going to have more complicated characters pop up, and it's going to get really really crazy and complicated.
Okay.
And then I think Marie is finally going to make a decision on her and Aaron. But I think Aaron is going to make it before she does. And I think Aaron is going to sign the divorce papers.
Oh, okay. Lots of thoughts there. What about you, Dot?
I don't think we'll see if he wins the case or not in this season. I think that's definitely something that they will save for season 2, and then we'll kind of go into the afterlife once he's out of jail. Next episode, I think that Darius is going to just break up with Marie. I think that it's going to all just come down on him. It's going to be hard. I don't think it's going to be anything that's, aggressive or anything, but just something very gentle and just like, listen, I understand where you are. This is what needs to happen. And I'm really starting to think that Cassius Dawkins is going to be crucial for Aaron. I think that relationship and that dynamic is going to grow in terms of them working together as opposed to working against each other.
Okay, yeah, I like that a lot. I think that their relationship is going to be crucial. I think Aaron already knows that Dawkins is going to have a determinant in like how he fares, and he just changes his whole world. I think he will have to just kind of find ways to cultivate that relationship enough to just have him on his side. I also agree that Darius and Marie are going to split. I don't know if that's happening next week or not. And I do think that we're going to have a decision before the end of the season of what's going to happen with Aaron's case, which will be really interesting to see because then where do we go next season? I do see Jeff. I don't speak for him often because we don't always agree, but Jeff does agree. I see he had texted saying that his vote is yes, that we will have a decision before the end as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. We are just about all out of time. You guys can catch us next week. There's a new episode, and so we'll have a new episode as well. Dot, let the people know where they can find you.
All the people can find me on all social media sites at .McDonald, and that's not the period. That's actually DOT McDonald.
And Emily, where are you at?
Awesome. So you can find me on all social media platforms at Emily May, M-A-E, Heller.
Okay, Jeff is not present, so I'm going to speak for him again. That's twice we agreed tonight. You can follow Jeff on social media at Jeff Will Jr. Tweet him hashtag For Life and Back, and maybe he'll give you some of the info that he was going to share tonight with a special segment. And then you can follow me anywhere that's social at Keith_Andre. We'll see you guys next week.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.